And this is the start of my playoff beard. Hey there, this is your pal Pallie, and welcome back to Overrated. This is episode number 21. 21. Sorry, I messed that up. All good. I am happy today. It is a good sports day, and we've got some fantastic stuff to talk about today. The main topic later on will be raid leading, but I would like to take this opportunity to update on some alpha notes and some little newses, pieces, and items of the week. So, the biggest thing that came out this week was Azeroth choppers. Okay. So this is if you don't know anything about this, basically it's like a couple of motorcycle building guys getting together with Blizzard guys, and essentially there's going to be two bikes that they make, and people are going to get to vote on which one they like, either Team Alliance or Team Horde, and whichever one actually gets the most votes will be put into the game. And only one. So only one faction will win. And I'm sorry, it's probably going to be the Horde. There's just more of us. I'm sorry. But, good news, or at least my good news prediction for you Alliance folks, and I was Alliance to start with, so I know. But I'm pretty sure that they're not going to cheese off half of their player base by only giving that one faction amount. Probably what's going to happen is it's going to be there for the Horde first week, and then 3 weeks later, after people complain and are like, oh, I really like the Alliance one, they're going to put it in too. Probably. Seriously, they probably will. Maybe they won't. Maybe they won't. Maybe they won't bend to that pressure. But, Azeroth choppers, check it out. Off we go. The next thing coming out of the alpha notes is a discussion about battle reses. So, what they said is they needed to come up with a better system for deciding how many battle reses a raid side gets. So, it was easy now. Currently, 10 mans get 1, 25 mans get 3. The problem was when they put flex mode into Siege of Orgrimmar, they couldn't decide how many battle reses that size got, because it was dynamic. Well, if they had 25 players, I guess we give them 3. If they only have 10, we only give them 1. But when do they get 2? When do they get that third? So they gave up. They punted. They punted and said, flex mode gets 3. That's what happens currently. But they decided, let's not do that for Warlords. Now that both normal and heroic sizes are going to be flexible, let's figure out a better system. So, I don't know if the system is better, but here's the proposed system. The proposed system is that you get 1 battle res, regardless of raid size, you get 1 to start the encounter. And then, you slowly gain another battle res charge, so a second battle res that you can use, every X amount of minutes, depending on your raid size. So, the formula is, you get 1 battle res for every 90 divided by your raid size minutes. So what does that work out to be? Well, for 10 man, that means once every 9 minutes, you get a battle res. You get a second battle res. For 25 man, once every 3.6 minutes, you get a second battle res. For if you had 15 players in there, that would be 6 minutes, and the most important one, at least for the hardcore, tuning perspective, is that 20 man would get a second battle res, or a charge of a battle res, every 4.5 minutes. So, what does this mean? What do you mean? What do I mean by a charge? Well, it just means there's going to be an indicator that says, okay, now you can use a second battle res, or now you can use a third one. Okay, fantastic. Is this balanced? I don't know. We're going to have to sort of pay attention and do some graphs and take a look at these numbers and go, yeah, for typical fights in Siege that will work out. Maybe Warlords would have these sort of in mind. Obviously, I hope they would. But think of like General Nazgrim encounter in Siege right now. If you're in a 10-man, that fight generally lasts between 8 and 10 minutes, depending on when you like just burn them and burn that last 10%. On Heroic, usually it goes close to the 10-minute mark. So you would get one battle res in 10-man, and then you would have a second one to use right near the end of the fight. Maybe valuable, who knows. But even on a, say, longer fight like Garrosh, say Garrosh Heroic, or even Paragons of the Calaxy Heroic, that's a pretty long, 10, 12-minute fight. You're going to get that second battle res in a 10-man and be able to utilize it way later on in the fight. So, cool stuff. What would that mean for, say, a 25-man right now? So you're 25-man going to kill Nazgrim. Well, you would have the one battle res to start. Yay. You would get a second one about, halfway through the fight or so. And then you could have a third one up by the end of the fight. Okay, so you get your 3 battle reses back, essentially. It's all about the timing of it. It's all about you don't have the 3 to burn right away. And that may actually be a nice thing, because maybe raid leaders are sort of, hey, we've got like 3 people died right away. Let's not burn all battle reses in the first minute. It would sort of be like, well, we can only pick up one of these guys. We're going to have to be down these 2 guys for the next, 3.6 minutes. Screw it, let's wipe it and get a better try in. Maybe that'll work out. But what would it work out for like Garrosh? For a 25-man, you probably could squeeze in a 4th battle res, depending on how long Garrosh. I'm not quite to Garrosh Heroic. Oh God, please, I'm hoping I would get there soon. But you might be able to put a 4th one in there. That'd be interesting. But anywho, what do you guys think of this change? There's sort of probably going to be some tuning and some talking about it, and maybe they adjust the formula some more. But I think it's kind of weird that a 10-man's going to have to wait a very long time, but maybe that's just the best formula they came up with tuning-wise. I don't know. Seems like a very long time to wait for another battle res. So, there's also, along with this, is an actual nice addition that regardless of whether you like the timing or how many battle reses, they're finally going to put some indication into the user interface as to whether your raid can use a battle res at this moment. Oy, thank goodness. Raid leaders have been using add-ons or simply counting in their head or writing down on a little sticky note. We used 1. Here's a 2nd. Here's a 3rd. So there's been some archaic methods to tracking that. Now they're actually going to put an indication in the user interface that says, hey, you've used this, or someone has a battle res that's pending, that's one of yours, or it hasn't been used up yet, or anything like that. So I hear that all the time, especially in 25-man these days. Did we use our battle reses? Are we out? Can someone try? Res him. Try resing him. And you're just wasting a bunch of time because you don't know, did we use them? I don't know. Who knows? So, that's a good change, regardless of this other stuff. Yay, you can actually be seeing it in the user interface, whether you have battle reses available to you or not. And that's one of those raid leader things that's going to just be like, yay! So, speaking of raid leading, that finally leads me into my main topic of raid leaders. And this is a talk about why you should appreciate your raid leader, or why you as a raid leader should be appreciated, or probably as a raid leader, how you could improve yourself. However you want to take this. I'm sort of targeting some raid leader skills or underappreciated type skills that raid leaders have, and sort of calling them out and saying, good job if you're doing this kind of stuff, because it's sometimes a pain in the butt. So, the first one, the one that I hate the most, is organizing and getting the raid even together and started. Why is it so hard? Why is it so hard for 25 people to log on at the same time? Because they're people. Because they have things going on. Stuff happens. It's a pain. It's a headache. At least for me. At least in my book. It's hard to get 9 other people, 24 other people scheduled for a specific time, every whatever, and it's just rough. There are many things that raid leaders can do to sort of compensate for this type of thing. So if you're a 25-man guild at the moment, you have a bench of, say, 3 to 5 other people who, or maybe you don't have a bench, you just have a roster of 30 people. So if a few people cancel, if they call out, you're fine, you still have a raid, you keep going. But that introduces the complication of who gets to go if 30 people show up. Then you have to decide, well, this guy sat out last week. This guy volunteered to sit out. He's saying he's not feeling well. Okay, I'm going to bring this guy in because he sat out for 2 weeks and he needs some gear. This other guy really doesn't need any gear, but he wants to go. Oh my God. No, it sucks. Sucks to figure those out. Sucks to make those decisions. So kudos to raid leaders for doing that kind of stuff and having to manage that. Certainly there are systems you can set up to say you don't sit every raid night, then you're not recruiting for the bench or whatever. Maybe you run your raid differently. I don't know. But it is simply a pain in the butt to organize and get the group together and get it going. And even that last part, getting it going, that can be tough sometimes too, because people were like, well, raid time says it's 8:30. I'm going to log on at 8:29. Alright, I'm logged on. Oh, sweet, there's my invite from the raid leader. It doesn't look like everyone's at the raid instance yet. I'm going to go grab a drink. You get back. It's 8:35. Oh, shoot. Forgot my consumables in my bank. Let me go run and get the... Hang on, Mr. Raid Leader. I'm grabbing my pots. Okay, alright. It's 8:40. Alright, everyone's here. Okay, we'll start pulling... Oh, shoot. Main tank's got... His cat just fell out of a tree. Alright, we'll pull trash and we'll get going. We gotta wait for him to get back. Sometimes it's just hard to get everyone together and everyone being prepared and get him going. It's tough. It's tough. It's really tough. Certainly there are, again, more things you can do as a raid leader to sort of make that better. You can be like, hey, raid invites start at 8:15. If you are not on by 8:15, you are a lower priority to be in this raid. If I have 25 people who are signed on at 8:15, that's who we're going with. I don't care if main tank signs on at 8:31. He ain't going. I'm going to teach him a lesson. I don't know. Or, hey, if you are going to be late, post on the forums or send me a message before because I'm going to need to make sure you're included and we need to make sure you're actually going to be here when you say you are, and then I'll have your spot. All sorts of things, all sorts of systems, even linking loot to attendance or, lateness. There's a lot of things that you can do as a raid leader to sort of help this situation out. But in general, what I want to call out is that this is rough. It's rough organizing and figuring this all out and telling this person you're going, this person you're sitting. I know you need loot, but I need to get this guy some time. It's rough. It is rough. So, that's the first skill. I hate that one the most. That's why I wrote it up first. So the second skill, actually laying out the initial strategy for your group, laying out a summary of what the boss is doing, figuring out and doing that research ahead of time. That is more time spent not actually playing the game, but preparing to play the game. And depending on the raid style that you're with, it may be that you feel like you are the only one, or there may be another person who is doing that kind of stuff. It feels like you're feeding the raid to the group. You're feeding the strategy. You're feeding whatever. And yeah, that can suck too, because again, depending on how your raid runs, it may be like, well, this guy doesn't have time. He's very busy. I can't, I have to tell him what to do. Fine. But there could be other people who prepare and they come and they know what they need to do. Be like, oh, are you using this strat or this strat? And I'll be just like, oh, we're going with this strat. Like, okay, I know what I'm doing. Off I go over here. Do you want a bloodlust at this part or this part? Hey, we're bloodlust at this part. Cool, off we go. That would be fantastic. Doesn't always happen. In general, the raid leader has to do the research and figure out the initial strategy and figure out what's going to work best for their group. Sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't, but at least they have to do that initial research and study and have to lay it all out for people. So, definitely underappreciated piece of being a raid leader, because if you come to a raid and it's just like, I don't know, guys, let's spend a few minutes reading the dungeon journal. Spend a few minutes, oh, this looks like we need to taunt swap here. This thing says split damage evenly between people. I guess we'll have people stack over here. You sort of waste a lot of time figuring out the fight, which that may be your speed. That may be you like to sort of, okay, everyone's going in there with no preconceived notions as to what this fight is. Let's just figure it all out. A lot of that stuff is fun on PTR. I know I have that fun on that kind of stuff when we did it in Siege. It was just like, oh, I don't know how to do this conveyor belt. If you don't do this conveyor belt, what happens? Oh, the boss, you can't kill the boss. He's like, oh, shoot. Just stuff like that is kind of interesting, but that's PTR time. Probably want to not spend that time when you're trying to down encounters and get ahead in progress and all that other jazz. I don't know. Maybe that's your speed. Maybe that's what you want to do. Whatever. But you as the raid leader are responsible for deciding that. So come up with an initial strategy or don't. There you go. Next up, while you are in the raid leaders can be good or bad at this skill. They've seen a wide variety. Changing the strat. Changing what's going on or what your strategy is based on what's happening. So the first part of that is being good at the analysis of what's going on. So many times I have heard raid leaders going, seriously, DPS, you need to pick it up. Come on, this thing should be dead by now. When it's the healer standing over here, completely oblivious to the void zone they're standing in and dying. And then the rest of the raid dies, and then off we go. And then we wipe. DPS, why didn't you harder? No. Why did the healer die? Figure that out. Oh, he did this. Anyway, that's the analysis skill stuff. You gotta be good at that, going, okay, this happened, and then things seem to fall apart. Let's go back up to that first thing and go, was the tank death what caused it to whatever, or was it something else, like a Iron Star just slaughtered the raid or something? Figure out what's going on. That is a tough skill. It's a skill that people have to learn, people have to get better at, and it comes with time and practice. Secondly, adjusting the strategy based off of what you have analyzed. Saying, well, this keeps happening, and this has happened like 3 times now in this raid tonight. I'm going to assign a healer to watch this guy because he's important, because he's over here doing this thing. Okay, now that guy doesn't seem to die anymore. Alright, but maybe now the raid seems to be dipping a lot lower because I just assigned a healer over there. Maybe I need to do something else. Going through that analysis and then actually coming up with relevant solutions, that can be rough too. And a lot of it can be rough in that every raid group is different, and you won't be able to just go out to Fat Boss, you won't be able to go out to Overrated, which raid guides are good. Get her raid guides. Yeah. You won't be able to go out to those different things and go, well, Get Her Raid says do this. Why aren't we doing this, guys? Well, maybe Get Her Raid didn't think of this comp or this raid comp and that you don't have this, and therefore the strategy that he suggests doesn't work out for you. Now you got to figure something else out on how to handle this other thing. Or maybe there's just many ways to approach a fight. You can kill this, this, and this, and that changes the fight in this way. Like, think Yasarj in Dragon Soul. Let's kill yellow slimes and figure out what works out there. Many ways to approach a fight. You might have to try some things to figure out what works out. Again, it's a skill. A raid leader's got to learn it. They've got to be good at it. And if they are, the raid has a lot of success and rolls through fights and progresses well. If they're not, you spend there for a night, and everyone's banging their head against the wall, and you're like, we're making no progress. We've done the same thing 15 times in a row. We've gotten to the exact same spot. We need to change something. Change something. Anywho, changing strat, tough thing to do. Along the similar lines is the sort of management of the raid as it's going on. And I don't mean the strategy and whatnot, I mean the, hey, I've got an AFK, someone's at the door. Crap. Alright, I guess we'll pull trash, wait for that guy to come back. Or, well, I can't wait 5 minutes. Sorry, dude, I'm booting you, getting this other guy in, and we're going to continue pulling. Well, we got to summon that guy. We got to keep things going. Hey, we're missing crit buff. Hey, we need some noodles put down. Hey, like, all of those sort of, like, micromanaging type things that happen in a raid keeps the raid flowing, deciding break times, all that other jobs keeps the raid being efficient. And it's the raid leader's responsibility, primarily, to figure that stuff out and keep it going. Many people are good at that. Many people are bad at that. I discussed, like, in a overrated way long ago about raid active time. So sites like World of Logs, I don't know if Warcraft Logs does this, but World of Logs I know shows sort of, you upload a log and it shows from the time you started pulling trash until the time was over, how active was your raid in doing stuff. So that just means, were you shooting and pew-pewing something for X amount of time? You know, if you look at a statistic like that and you go, well, it says we were active 25% of our 3-hour raid time, or 4-hour raid time. 25% of 4 hours? That's 1 hour we were actually killing stuff. What were we doing the other 3 hours? Maybe it was breaks, maybe it was in the middle of it, someone had to go pick up their boyfriend from the airport or whatever. Who knows? But a lot of managing that will get your active time up and maybe get you more efficient and stuff. So, again, another thing you gotta learn. And, of course, the tempo of your raid is all up to the raid leader. It's all like, well, I don't really care that we were only active for an hour. We were just sort of hanging out and chilling, and we were laughing at that last pull, and, you know, whatever. 25% is cool with me. But maybe you look at it and go, man, we've been on the same boss. Or maybe you're in a different style again, and you're like, man, we've been on the same boss. Why are we not through this? Be like, well, we only had like 10 attempts in the whole night on him in a whole 3 hours. That doesn't seem right. We only pulled him 10 times? That should be like 20 or 30 or, you know, whatever. So, raid efficiency is up to you. Up to you and your officers and your crews. So, lastly, I touched a bit on raid tone and, you know, casual or laid back or more intense. It is up to you as the raid leader to be a cheerleader / motivator. So again, depending on style, you have to be the one who keeps people going, keeps people not banging their head against the wall and going, why am I here? Why am I doing this? You have to keep it fun in some way. Some people like it to be fun in that, hey guys, stop screwing up on this. You need to do this. You need to do this. I saw this happening. Do that. Bam. Alright, we down the boss. Yeah! Off we go. Or other people sort of like the style of, alright, we're doing better. We got to 30% this time. We haven't gotten to that point, so good job, guys. We're getting there. We need to do this, this, and this. And tanks, why don't you guys try popping cooldowns at this time as opposed to this, and let's give that a shot. Alright, here we go, guys. Off we go. Do good. Hey, I saw a tank. You did this. Good job. Keep that up. Keep doing that. You know, that motivator, cheerleader type style. Who knows? Maybe that's what you like as a raider. Maybe you'd like to be in that versus the other style. A lot more of the top end guilds or of the former style sort of get it, go. I'm going to sit you unless if you sit in that void zone again. Bam, you did, you're out. Peace out, moving this guy in, off we go. That sort of intense, like, cutthroat business style, which works. I mean, it works. People down stuff hardcore like that, and they get stuff done. But then it depends on if that's how you like fun. Not me. I would like the bit more laid back style. That's why I like the guild I'm in. And there you go. But it is up to you as the raid leader to set the sort of overall tone, the overall atmosphere of the raid with how you are interacting with the raid. It also, you need to do something. You need to at least do one of the two of them. You need to be a cheerleader, or you need to be the stick. Here's my stick. You need to be the stick in some way. If you just like never say anything to your raid and you just keep pulling, no one's going to learn what you should be doing, or if we're doing good or we're doing bad. I don't know. I'm going to try this next time because the raid leader didn't say anything. You know, you get that. You get that idea. You get the idea there. So anywho, those are some many aspects of raid leading that I could go into in quite a bit of detail, and maybe I will at some point. But many aspects of raid leading that are underappreciated, and why you should really like your raid leader, and you should really appreciate them, because, yeah, a lot of that stuff is hard. A lot of people don't have all of those skills. Some people need to improve them. If you're a raid leader watching this, maybe you can pick out some tips and you pick out some stuff to sort of improve on yourself. If you're sitting there going, yeah, our raid time's supposed to be 8:30, but we don't ever seem to pull the boss until like 9. Why is that? And then you go back and you go, oh, wow, some people show up like exactly 8:30. Maybe I should start inviting earlier. You know, just stuff like that. Improve on it. Make yourself better. Make yourself a better raid leader. Everyone will love you. Okay, maybe not everyone, but you'll at least improve as a raid leader and as a raid manager. So, yay. And to that end, I would like to thank my current raid leaders, because I'm not doing it right now. No, it's actually, I say that, although you could go to my guild's website right now, internetchampions.org, and you could see on the frickin' front page of it that I'm actually doing some bit of calling out and some stuff. And that's because my current raid leader is actually a little bit on hiatus. He'll be back soon enough. But, you know, I sort of volunteered to call out this stuff. That's just one of those, like, personality things that ends up happening for me. I end up, like, if something's not organized enough for me, I'm like, hey, I could help out by calling out this thing, or I could research this, guys, and throw this out there. And I end up talking a lot of strategy and figuring a lot of stuff out and going, hey, let's try this. And that ends up making me in the leadership position. So it's just something that happened. So, you know, some of my history of raid leading. In Wrath, I was a Wrath baby. So I got started in TOC and then ICC, and I was just the main tank who was, you know, at the time sort of thought of as the leader-ish type, but I wasn't. You know, I was too new to be any sort of leader, so it was just like, oh, okay, I need to do this and then do this and move the boss over here. Okay, how do I press these buttons? Do I need Righteous Fury on? And then Kata came along. I moved servers to raid with a friend. In there, I ended up sort of co-raid leading, I guess, or somewhat raid leading. In the end, I'd help him out on strategies. He would work out the organization stuff. And that was a sort of how it went for quite a few tiers, even up through into Mists. Pulling the raid together, you know, was his deal, and mine was like the initial strategy and all the raid leading and all that other kind of stuff. And then, as some of you know, in Throne of Thunder, my hunter actually got going. I actually got into a second group where I was none of the above. I was not any raid leadership piece at all, which actually felt good. It was kind of like, here, I'll just pew the boss, and you tell me where to stand, and you can deal with whether people are going to be here or not, or any of that jazz. So that was kind of great. But then I actually went to PTR and did the Siege of Orgrimmar guides, and you know, had a lot of PTR experience. And so the raid leader at the time in that second group, in my hunter group, was like, you know a lot about this now, and I need to take a little bit of a break. You're raid leader. Here I am, raid leader again. So at the time, at the beginning of Siege, I was raid leading that second group and the original group full time. So it's a lot, and it's probably somewhat of why I moved off, and now I'm in this current guild with my hunter, and just hanging out there and just being a non-raid leader, except I'm calling stuff out occasionally. I need to stop. Stop me. Whenever Mr. Raid Leader from my current group comes back, you better stop me. You better tell me, STFU, go on, do your DPS. Brr. Anywho, no. But it is something where I've been in the Raid Leader position. I've dealt with a lot of the triumphs and a lot of the crap, and it's given me a sense of like, this is rough. This can be rough. This can be annoying. It can be very gratifying to be the leader who's like, yeah, I led these people through the gates of hell, and here we are with some shiny new achievements and mounts and fantastical new gear. That's a good piece of it too. But there's a lot of downsides to it, some of which I mentioned today, but I have an appreciation for those who do this because, yeah, I do. Anywho, that is my topics for today. I'd like to give my usual update on my Insane achievement, which actually isn't an update on what I've done with the Insane achievement, but it's an update on what Blizzard has done to the achievement. They actually finally fixed it in a sense. So what was actually happening before was if you got honored with Bloodsail and then dropped that to get exalted with all of the Steam Weedle, it wasn't actually tracking the honor with Bloodsail at this point, and it was broken, I don't know how many moons ago. But anywho, a lot of people had trouble getting the achievement if they did the Dark Moon, or if they did the Bloodsail stuff first versus last. So, anywho, Blizzard actually finally fixed it, where if you get to that point, it actually registers it in the achievement, and then no problems later on. It was actually resetting every week with the, raid reset type stuff. So, yay, that's fixed. I actually sort of covered my butt on that because like as of right now, if there's a little macro that you can put in that actually pops the achievement up will show you the tracking of it. Right now it actually says I never did honored with Bloodsail, which I did. I know I did. But it shows all the other pieces done with, Dark Moon not yet done, of course. And I covered my butt by actually putting in a ticket when I got honored with Bloodsail, and I said, hey, Mr. GM, look at my character right now and just verify I've got it, because I'm going to go do the Steam Weedle stuff and it's going to drop that, and I don't want to get into some argument laid down the road that I never finished this stuff. So Mr. GM responded and said, yay, it's there, I see it, and I see you've got the, there's an achievement that gives you the captain's hat and stuff, opens up some quests. When you get to friendly, it doesn't actually verify that you're at honored, it verifies that you're at friendly. But anywho, there you go. I got that verified. So down the road, if I finish Dark Moon, next month, and I don't get the achievement, hopefully I can put in a ticket about that and be like, hey, back here, I did that stuff. Anyway, I did this because I saw some Wowhead comments to this effect, like that this happened to someone, and people were like, well, you just need to avoid dropping the Bloodsail rep by doing this, and it's, Anyway, it's changed a lot over the years. Sometimes Wowhead comments can be great, sometimes they can be inaccurate, depending on when they were written. But anywho, thought I'd cover my bases, but it's cool that Blizzard actually fixed the achievement such that you don't have to mess with that anymore. So, yay! There's my Insane update for the week. Anywho, I appreciate everyone watching this. I also appreciate people coming out for the stream. I actually had quite a few people in the stream, like 7 or 8, which is quite a few for me at least. I know there's people who have like hundreds of people watching them a night, and hey, it'd be fantastic to get to that point, but I know I'm not there yet. But to that end, I did get in touch with a streamer called Fudge Truck, who's actually pretty interesting to watch, and his stream was all fancified, and I was like, hey, how can I do stuff like that? And he's like sort of giving me the down low on how to make things more fancified. So look for that in the future. Maybe not for this next raid. We're actually not raiding Sunday, but we're going to raid Tuesday, Wednesday. Try to kill the Paragon's Galaxy again. Please let us kill us. We're so close. And maybe I'll have my raid stream fancified. I'm hoping, because it looked kind of cool and it looked kind of neat, and you can do all sorts of chat things and song requests, and yeah. So, anywho, I'll be looking to do that. So follow my stream at twitch.tv/getarraid. Follow me on Twitter at getarraid, so you can know when I'm starting to stream. And send me a message on TankSpot or YouTube comments or any of that kind of jazz, because I like reading comments. I like responding to people, talking to people. And yeah, so please comment, like, subscribe, video if you found it helpful. And have a good one, guys. This is Overrated number 21. Laters!